How American farmers reap thousands of tons of fruits and vegetables. The fruit and vegetable industry in the U.S. contributes significantly to the country's economy and brings in billions of dollars every year. Farms all throughout the nation, from the sloping hills of California to the verdant fields of the Midwest, bustle with activity as farmers toil tirelessly to bring in their abundant crops all year round. But how do American farmers achieve such a bountiful harvest of fruit and vegetables all year long? The harvest season of fruits and vegetables in America can be a challenging time for farmers, but it is also an exciting one. It starts in the late spring or early summer and continues through the fall, depending on the crop and geography. During this time, farmers work long hours to pick, sort, and package their crops. For many fruits and vegetables, the harvest window is relatively short, so it's important to work quickly and efficiently to get the product to market before it spoils. And that is done using a combination of cutting-edge technology, creative agricultural techniques, and a lot of hard work. California, famously known as the Salad Bowl of America, is the leading state in fruit and vegetable production, responsible for cultivating over half of the nation's fruits, nuts, and vegetables. The Central Valley region in California, in particular, is renowned for producing crops such as almonds, strawberries, grapes, and avocados. The state of Florida, likewise, is a major producer of fruits such as oranges, grapefruits, and strawberries, while Georgia is celebrated for its sweet peaches. Furthermore, the states in the Midwest region, such as Illinois, Michigan, and Wisconsin, are recognized for cultivating an assortment of vegetables, including corn, tomatoes, and peppers. Farmers in these regions typically use a combination of manual and mechanical harvesting methods depending on the crop and the size of their operation. For small-scale farmers, manual harvesting is often the preferred method, as it allows for greater precision and control over the picking process. This method involves hand-picking fruits and vegetables, often with the help of family members or seasonal workers. This can be a labor-intensive process, but it allows farmers to ensure that each piece of produce is picked at the right time and handled with care to prevent damage. This is particularly important for crops like tomatoes, which must be picked at the peak of ripeness to ensure optimal flavor and texture. Manual harvesting also allows farmers to cull any damaged or diseased product before it is packed for transport, ensuring that only the best quality fruits and vegetables make it to market. For larger-scale operations, mechanical harvesting is often used to save time and reduce labor costs. This method involves using specialized equipment such as harvesters or pickers to harvest crops quickly. A variety of mechanical harvesters have been developed over the years to accommodate different types of crops, such as tomatoes, lettuce, strawberries, and blueberries. These machines are designed to work in various field conditions, ranging from flat fields to hilly terrain. The type of mechanical harvester used depends on the crop being harvested. For example, tomato harvesters use a series of blades or fingers to pick the fruit from the vine and transfer it to a collection bin. The harvester moves down the rows of tomato plants, and the blades or fingers strip the fruit from the plant. There are two main types of tomato harvesters: over-the-row harvesters that straddle the plant rows and pick the fruit from above, and toe-behind harvesters that trail behind a tractor and pick the fruit from the side. Strawberry harvesters use rotating belts or pads to gently remove the fruit from the plant and transfer it to a collection bin. The harvester moves down the rows of strawberry plants, and the rotating belts or pads brush the fruit off the plant. Strawberry harvesters also come in two different forms: tractor-mounted harvesters that are pulled behind a tractor, and self-propelled harvesters that move down the rows of plants on their own. Usually, blueberry harvesters employ a series of shaking paddles or rods that are connected to a motor. There are also vibrating harvesters, which shake the fruit free from the plant using a series of vibrating plates. Apple harvesters use a system of cups or suction tubes to pick the fruit from the tree. Yet again, the harvester moves down the rows of apple trees, and the cups or tubes grab the fruit and pull it off the tree. The fruit is then conveyed to a collection bin or onto a trailer. Mechanical harvesters can also operate in a range of weather conditions, which is a big benefit for farmers who have to harvest their crops promptly to prevent weather-related losses. Besides the benefits, there are also a few limitations of mechanical harvesters. For instance, installing this equipment comes at a hefty expense. Also, these machines sometimes can be harsh on crops like blueberries and require specialized staff to operate them. Nevertheless, many fruit and vegetable farmers are adopting modern farming practices that ensure better harvest and promote long-term profitability. One of the most popular strategies used by American farmers to harvest enormous amounts of fruits and vegetables is precision farming. Grapes are often grown using precision farming techniques. Sensors and cameras monitor soil moisture, nutrient levels, vine growth, and fruit quality, while computer models predict disease outbreaks and optimize irrigation schedules. This is followed by harvesting using mechanical harvesters that are specially designed for this crop. The machines shake the vines, causing the grapes to fall onto a conveyor belt, which carries them to a collection bin. The grapes are then transported to a winery or other processing facility, where they are crushed and fermented to produce wine or other grape products. Another technique that American farmers use to harvest more fruits and vegetables with less effort is conservation tillage. This farming practice involves leaving crop residue on the soil after harvest instead of plowing it under. Less tillage can improve soil aggregation, encourage biological activity, and boost water retention. As a result, the amount of organic matter in the soil increases, and the amount of moisture that is readily available in the soil is improved. Potatoes and corn are high-value crops that can benefit from conservation tillage techniques. Both of these utterly profitable crops are then harvested using modern machinery. Corn is typically harvested in the fall after the kernels have dried on the stalks. Farmers use a machine called a combine to harvest the corn. The combine cuts the stalks, removes the ears of corn, and separates the kernels from the cobs. The kernels are then stored in grain bins for drying and storage until they are sold or used for animal feed or other products. Potatoes, too, are harvested in the fall. Farmers use a machine to dig up potatoes from the soil. The harvester lifts the plants out of the ground, shakes the soil off the potatoes, and separates the potatoes from the vines and other debris. The potatoes are then sorted and stored in temperature-controlled storage facilities until they are sold or processed. American farmers also use crop rotation. It is the practice of rotating the sequence of crops grown on a field or planting beds over time. It is required by the farmers to prevent erosion, manage and control pests, and maintain or increase soil organic matter. Cabbages and sweet corn immensely benefit from this technique. A significant portion of agricultural employment in the United States is generated by the fruit and vegetable industry. According to the most current USDA agricultural census report, fruit and vegetable harvest was valued at USD $48.2 billion, making up 12.4% of all agricultural output. Farmers benefit from this by having a reliable market for their products and a source of income. Many farmers choose to grow fruits and vegetables as a way of diversifying their crops and income streams. By growing a variety of crops, farmers can spread their risk and take advantage of different market opportunities. The fruit and vegetable farming industry in the United States is a shining example of the country's agricultural prowess. American farmers have adapted to changing times and evolving consumer demands by incorporating modern techniques alongside traditional practices. This has resulted in a diverse and abundant harvest, with new varieties of fruits and vegetables, sustainable practices, and niche markets emerging. As a result, the industry has continued to thrive, generating billions of dollars in revenue and providing a reliable source of income for countless farmers across the country. The future of American fruit and vegetable farming looks bright, and its impact on the country's economy and dietary health cannot be overstated. Missouri, located in the heart of the Midwest, is home to a thriving agricultural industry that has been a cornerstone of the state's economy for generations. With a land area of 43.2 million acres, over 27.5 million acres of farmland in Missouri is dedicated to growing a wide variety of crops and raising livestock. Over 93,000 farms dot the state's rolling hills and fertile valleys, with an average farm size of 298 acres. Soybeans, corn, and hay are the top crops grown in Missouri, making up a significant portion of the state's agricultural production. In 2022, Missouri farmers harvested around 6 million acres of soybeans, 3.7 million acres of corn, and 3 million acres of hay. Livestock production is another major part of Missouri agriculture, with cattle and calves, hogs, and turkeys among the top animals raised in the state. Farmers in Missouri raised 19.7 million turkeys, 3.5 million pigs, and 2 million cattle and calves in 2022. Let us first take an in-depth look at the world of livestock farming in Missouri. According to the USDA stats, the total value of sales of livestock and livestock products in Missouri was around $5 billion in 2022. The top commodity was cattle and calves, which generated a total value of sales of $2.4 billion. The sale of hogs and pigs generated $1 billion in revenue, while sheep, lambs, poultry, and eggs generated $2.5 billion in revenue. Following this $1 billion revenue, the pork industry is a significant part of Missouri's agricultural sector and generates more than 22,000 jobs every year. According to the Missouri Pork Association, the state is home to over 3,600 pig farms, which collectively raise more than 3 million pigs annually. Many of these farms are family-owned and operated with a deep commitment to animal welfare and sustainable farming practices. The pigs are kept in indoor facilities called hog barns, which are designed to provide optimal living conditions for the animals. The pigs are housed in groups within the barns, which allows them to socialize and interact with one another. The barns are designed to provide ample space for the pigs to move around freely, exercise, and maintain good health. The pigs are provided with clean and dry bedding, which is changed regularly to ensure optimal hygiene conditions. One of the key benefits of hog barns is that they help to reduce the risk of disease transmission among the pigs. In addition, hog barns allow pig farmers to closely monitor the animals and provide them with personalized care. These barns are, thus, able to produce high-quality pork products that meet the highest standards of nutritional value and taste. Missouri's pork industry is a model of vertical integration, with many of the state's pig farms operating as part of larger pork production companies that oversee every aspect of the production process, from breeding and raising the pigs to processing and distributing the final pork products. This approach allows for greater efficiency, cost savings, and quality control. It's just one example of the rich diversity found within Missouri's farming communities. Missouri is also a major player in the cattle industry, producing some of the highest quality beef products in the country. With over 2 million head of cattle, Missouri is one of the leading states in cattle production. Missouri farmers use a variety of farming methods to raise cattle, but the most common method is pasture-based grazing. This means that cattle are allowed to roam freely on open pastures, grazing on grass and other vegetation. During the winters when grazing is not possible, Missouri farmers feed their cattle with hay. This hay is usually made from grasses that were harvested during the summer months when they were in abundance. Missouri farmers use modern techniques to ensure the health and well-being of their cattle. Farmers also use technology to monitor the weight and health of their cattle, which helps them make informed decisions about feeding and breeding. One example of technology used by Missouri cattle farmers is the use of ear tags. These tags contain information about the individual cattle, including their age, breed, and medical history. This information is then entered into a database, which allows farmers to track the health and well-being of their cattle over time. After the cattle reach maturity, they are transported to a processing plant where they undergo a series of procedures to prepare them for sale. The processing plant employs skilled workers who are trained to humanely handle the animals and process the meat. The meat is then packaged and stored in refrigerated trucks to maintain freshness during transportation to retailers and wholesalers, who in turn distribute it to grocery stores, restaurants, and other food service providers. But these cattle ranches couldn't exist without a crop widely grown in Missouri: hay. Missouri farmers earned approximately $329 million in revenue from hay production in 2022. Whether it's alfalfa, clover, or timothy, hay is an essential source of nutrition for Missouri's livestock. So let's take a closer look at how hay farmers in Missouri are cultivating and harvesting this critical crop. Hay is typically grown in the spring season. After the hay has matured and is ready for harvest, farmers will typically use specialized equipment to cut and dry the hay. One common method is to use a mower conditioner, which cuts the hay and crimps the stems to help speed up the drying process. Once the hay is cut, it needs to be dried to a moisture level of around 15 to 20%. This is usually accomplished by letting the hay dry in the field for several days, depending on the weather condition. Farmers will often monitor the drying process closely to ensure that the hay doesn't get too dry or too wet. After the hay is dry, it is typically baled using a baler, which compresses the hay into large rectangular bales. These bales can then be stored in a barn or other covered areas and are ready for use or sale. We've seen that hay production in Missouri generates a substantial amount of revenue for farmers, but there's more to the story than just the sale of hay. Using hay as a feed source for livestock actually has a positive impact on the local economy. It helps reduce the cost of feed, making livestock farming more affordable. This in turn can lead to higher quality meat and dairy products, which can fetch higher prices in the market. Overall, the benefits of hay production extend beyond just financial gain. Meanwhile, in the heart of America, Missouri farmers are hard at work, cultivating one of the most profitable crops in the state, soybean. Soybean farming generates a staggering revenue of over $3.5 billion in 2022, making it a crucial source of livelihood for these dedicated and hard-working farmers. Creating a good seedbed is the first and crucial step to the success of the crop. To achieve this, farmers use specialized equipment like plows, cultivators, and disc harrows to clear the fields of any weeds and debris, and till the soil. The plow is used to break up the soil, while cultivators and disc harrows further loosen and aerate the soil. Once the soil is prepared, it is time to plant the soybeans. Farmers typically do this in the spring, after the last frost. The seeds are planted in rows using specialized equipment called a planter. A planter is a machine typically designed for sowing seeds in rows with a consistent seed depth and spacing. To ensure the correct spacing between plants, some planters use a vacuum system that sucks the seeds into a chamber before placing them into the furrow. This ensures that the seeds are evenly spaced and that there is no competition between the plants for resources. Once the soybeans reach maturity and the pods have formed, it's time for farmers to begin the harvest. They use specialized equipment that features a rotating blade to carefully cut the soybean plants at their base, ensuring the crop is collected efficiently. After the harvest, the soybeans are thoroughly cleaned and sorted, ensuring that only the highest quality beans are processed into various products, including animal feed, cooking oil, and soy milk. The harvesting process is a crucial step in the soybean farming cycle, and attention to detail is essential to maximize crop yield and quality. Missouri's central location and transportation infrastructure make it an ideal location for the movement of agricultural products across the country. Missouri's agricultural exports contribute significantly to the overall exports of the United States, helping to boost the country's trade balance and support domestic economic growth. Through their production of key agricultural commodities and their role in the food supply chain, Missouri farmers and ranchers thus play an important role in ensuring the country's food security and economic prosperity. California encompasses 105 million acres of the western United States. It is world-renowned for its stunning beaches, biodiverse national parks, and culture-laden cities. But 40% of it is used for farming, with about 77,500 farms providing hundreds of thousands of people with work. The state produces a wide range of agricultural products, and agricultural exports totaled $22.5 billion in 2021. Like other states, cattle thrive in California, and in 2021, the value of Californian dairy products reached $7.6 billion, whilst $3.1 billion came from beef farming. But the climate and rich soils that California has to offer provide the perfect environment for other products too. The number 2 commodity produced in California is grapes, second only to dairy. More than 99% of table grapes produced in the U.S. come from California, and wine grapes are grown in 49 of the 58 counties. This makes California the biggest wine producer in the states and the 4th biggest wine producer in the world. Grapes bring in $5.2 billion each year to the American economy. Not far behind grapes are almonds, which provide more than 97,000 jobs within the industry. These nuts are shipped all over the states and exported worldwide. They bring in an annual revenue of $5 billion, contributing significantly to America's economy. With such a warm climate and fertile soils, other typically Mediterranean produce thrives in America's Golden State. Amongst the top 10 agricultural products grown in California are pistachios, strawberries, lettuce, flowers, tomatoes, and oranges. But this is just the tip of the iceberg. There are 66 crops that California produces more of than any other state. A lot of the agricultural practices in California have been praised for their low environmental impact. Fruit trees restore oxygen to the atmosphere whilst sequestering carbon. Grapevines can survive with little water, which is important in a drought-prone state. And the largely rock-free soils require less tilling, therefore reducing the release of carbon locked away below ground. But can the same be said for California's dairy industry? Cattle are known for their environmental footprint. As ruminants, they produce vast quantities of methane, a potent greenhouse gas with a global warming potential 25 times greater than carbon dioxide. California is home to 1,100 dairy farms, with 99% of them being family-owned. 1 in 5 U.S. dairy cows lives in California, resulting in 1.7 million dairy cows in the state, and a fifth of America's milk production comes from California. Tulare County is the biggest dairy county in the U.S., with 450,000 dairy cows. Almost half of the milk produced in California goes into making cheese. The amount of rain in Northern California makes for excellent pasture, which the dairy cows thrive on. Even in Southern California, where the heat can be challenging, dairy farms work hard to keep the cows comfortable with freestall barns to keep them cool. With such large numbers of cattle, is California's environmental impact a negative one? The environmentally conscious state's dairy farmers have made an ambitious goal. By 2030, they aim to reduce methane production by 40%, with a particular emphasis on reducing it from manure. They are achieving this by utilizing methane digesters to turn the gas into fuel, improving the storage of manure, and continuing research into the agricultural industry. And what of the state's grape production? Over 880,000 acres of California's land is dedicated to grape growing. Of these, 14% is used for table grapes, 16% for raisins, and approximately 70% for winemaking. In 2021, California's grape growers produced 97 million boxes of grapes from more than 80 varieties. So where are California's grapes grown? They grow pretty much all over the state. At the very end of spring, those grown in the south in Coachella Valley are harvested first, and from midsummer, those in the Central Valley are then harvested. This is all done by hand by skilled pickers. During the winter months, grape growers carefully prune their vineyards. This is an important step that can make or break the following year's yield. During early spring, buds and then flowers appear on the vines before tiny, hard green fruits start to grow. These will become grapes once they have matured and ripened. A grower will determine if the grapes are ready for harvesting by observing their color, size, and taste. Some growers calculate the sugar content. Although vines are self-pollinating, some farmers release bees on their land to improve pollination and potentially yields. The third most common agricultural product, almonds, is grown on 1.3 million acres of Californian land. The state provides 80% of the world's almonds, exporting almost $5 billion worth to foreign countries. The trees require cross-pollination to successfully produce almond yields, and so the industry is heavily dependent on honeybees. More than half of all honeybee colonies reside in California. In fact, beekeepers across the U.S. are cashing in on the almond industry. They rent out their colonies of bees to almond growers in California, a far more lucrative business model than making and selling honey. But recently, beekeepers have found that many of their bees are dying. They are coming back from the almond fields covered in mites, or not coming back at all. Millions of bees are dying, and it is suspected that the hot, harsh conditions of the Central Valley, with fields full of the monoculture trees, are responsible for the bees' decline. Furthermore, Almond trees are doused with more pesticide than any other crop, and it is likely that this is having a devastating impact on pollinating insects, such as honeybees. This isn't the only negative association with almond production. California's almond growers have received bad press recently due to the large quantities of water required to grow them. The trees need watering year-round, even when they aren't producing almonds. In fact, it takes about 1.1 gallons of water to produce just one almond. This sounds like a lot, and it is. But more water is used to make dairy milk than is used to make almond milk. And when considering both the nutritional and economic value of almonds, the benefits far outweigh the negative connotations with the volume of water used. In response to pleas to stop using so much water, almond growers have managed to reduce their water usage by a third over the past 20 years. They are now committed to reducing water use by an additional 20% by 2025. Technological advances in agriculture, specifically water irrigation on a micro scale, have allowed more precision watering of almond trees. There are just 5 regions in the world that are conducive to growing almonds. This makes California special in the almond industry, and is a reason why they are the world's biggest producers of almonds. The Mediterranean climate that California has, with its mild winters, rainy season, and hot, dry summers, is vital for all stages of almond production. The almond industry alone provides more than 110,000 jobs, and many of these are in the Central Valley, which is known for its unemployment rates. The list of products produced by California farmers and growers is long and extensive. There are many products grown in California that aren't produced anywhere else in the United States. These include artichokes, clingstone peaches, dried plums, figs, olives, persimmons, pomegranates, raisins, clover, sweet rice, and walnuts. In conclusion, rich sediment deposited by surrounding mountains over millennia have given California a rich and deep topsoil, which is ideal for agriculture. On top of that, the state has a Mediterranean climate with warm, dry summers and a short period of heavy precipitation during the winter. These conditions have made California an agricultural powerhouse, capable of producing more than 400 different agricultural products. It is the most agriculturally productive state in the whole of the U.S. To harness its natural advantages, California has built extensive irrigation systems across its farmland, has well-developed transportation routes, and access to a number of ports for exportation. California exports its agricultural products to more than 150 countries worldwide. Its biggest customers are the EU, Canada, and Japan. All this makes California an incredibly wealthy and productive state with an important impact on global food supply and environment. But there are plenty of challenges for Californian farmers to compete with and overcome. Climate change is, of course, the biggest topic of conversation at the moment, whether you're a farmer or not. But changes in weather provide significant challenges to California's agriculture. We have spoken about the quantities of water used by almond growers, and in the heat of summer, water availability becomes precarious. As summers continue to grow warmer, rain and precipitation is less frequent. To combat overuse of water, the Sustainable Groundwater Management Act was brought into action in 2014. The aim was to manage water use, but farmers have not been compensated or supported financially to cut back on their water usage. Farmers also argue that bringing in the act has devalued their land and that they are expected to produce the same outputs with less water input. Farmers in the Californian state are also facing other financial struggles. The minimum wage increased to $15 per hour in 2022, and there is a shortage of farm laborers willing to work on the farms. Farmers have taken a financial hit, and it is more important than ever to invest in agricultural automation and precision farming. Furthermore, with a high dependency on exports, Californian farmers are vulnerable to global inflation, competition, and even foreign ownership of the shipping lines. But the government does provide help for farmers, such as a wide range of grants that are currently available to support those in the agricultural industry. If governments can financially support Californian farmers and provide them with incentives to continue to produce such a wide variety of produce, then California will continue to prosper on the national and global agricultural stage. Texas is a state that is big on farming. With over 248,000 farms, it has 72,000 more farms than Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma combined. The state's top farming commodities are cattle, cotton, milk, and broilers, and over 38,000 farms are operated by women. Texas has been farmed long before European settlers arrived on its land. Today, its agriculture is diverse and varied. Citrus crops, rice paddies, cotton, and timber are grown and harvested on Texan soil. Sheep, chickens, goats, and cattle are farmed across the state. 97% of Texan farms are family-run and have remained in the family for generations. But what Texans are most famed for is their cattle ranching, bringing in billions of dollars to the U.S. economy every year. Cattle farming in Texas is big business. But when did it all start? Texas ranching goes back centuries. Christopher Columbus brought with him cattle which became the famed Texan Longhorn, and Mexicans herded their cattle northwards into what is now Texas. By 1680, El Paso had several thousand cattle. Whilst the cattle numbers fluctuated with the Texas Revolution and the Mexican-American War, by the 1850s, Texas ranching had taken off. The Shawnee Trail was a route used by cattle herdsmen or ranchers to walk their cattle from Texas over 700 miles northwards to market in several states. There was the beginning of ranching. As land use changed and industrialization developed, ranchers and farmers have had to adapt. Cattle farming in Texas isn't as lucrative as it once was, and although land prices have soared more recently, the ranching way of life has been affected by the change. Today's farmers and ranchers often look to other ways to make a living, such as cashing in on Texas oil industry, tourism, renewable energy, hunting, and outdoor pursuits. Texas has definitely changed over the centuries. Today, 83% of its land is rural, consisting of farms, ranches, and forests, yet 86% of Texans live in urban areas. The average size of a Texan farm or ranch is 411 acres. And the state is home to the greatest number of farms in the whole of the United States, with 248,416 in total. These cover an area of 127 million acres. But what are all these farms used for? Is it just cattle that are found on Texas farms? The majority of Texan farms are still used for farming beef. Over $12 billion comes from cattle ranching in the state. Chicken production is on the rise, though, and is the second biggest farming enterprise in Texas, producing about $3 billion a year. Cotton and milk each produce about $2.6 billion and $2.1 billion, respectively. America is the third leading producer of cotton in the world, after China and India, and is the largest exporter of cotton in the world. Most of its cotton goes to Bangladesh, Vietnam, and China. In 2021, more than $3.2 billion worth of cotton was produced in Texas, but a year later the industry was struck by a devastating drought which affected over 70% of the land in the Texas Panhandle. Entire cotton harvests failed. In a typical year, the Panhandle produces a third of America's cotton, and about 8 million acres of land are dedicated to cotton farming. Beef production in the U.S. is well known around the world, and exports amount to $5.4 billion. Countries such as Japan, Canada, Hong Kong, Mexico, and South Korea are some of the world's biggest importers of America's beef. Texas has the right climate and land area, as well as a deeply embedded tradition to provide most of America's beef. So with such a big lead on the other agricultural industries, how is beef farming managed in Texas these days? Most cattle are born, raised, finished, and slaughtered in Texas. As youngsters, they are let out to graze before being placed onto feedlots. It is these feedlots that have received bad press due to their detriment to the environment and surrounding human population, as well as concerns over animal welfare. Smaller, family-run ranches operate in Texas's increasingly fragmented rural countryside. The Texan countryside and all it has to offer is attracting more people. The price for an acre of land is just over $2,000. This has increased significantly over the years and was recorded as $500 per acre back in 1997. With the changing rural environment attracting novice farmers and smallholders, the Small Acreage Big Opportunity Program is an initiative to try and improve wildlife conservation across the fragmented countryside, alongside the growth of new smallholdings. In intensive beef farming, which has become popular practice in Texas, yearling cattle arrive from all over the states to the feedlot. They arrive by truckload, typically 70 at a time. Feedlots can have an average of 60,000 cattle at a time. Both heifers and steers are vaccinated on arrival, dewormed and injected with a growth-promoting hormone implant under the skin. Concerns over this hormone implant is one of the reasons why U.S. beef is not allowed to be imported into Europe. Once the cattle are processed, they are moved to their pens. This is where they spend the rest of their time on the feedlot until their slaughter. A horseback rider will check the livestock daily for any signs of lameness or illness. Cattle will be moved to the veterinary paddock if they are ill to be treated before being returned to the herd. The cattle are fed roughage for the first week on the feedlots, and then grains for the rest of their time. Predominantly sweet bran is fed to the cattle, which consume about 20 pounds or 10 kilograms of dry matter a day, and achieve a daily live weight gain of 3 to 5 pounds or 1.3 to 2.3 kilograms. The grain that the cattle are fed has been grown on the surrounding fields. This means that local farmers are heavily dependent on feedlots to make a living, and the grain does not travel far to reach its destination. Likewise, the manure that is produced on the feedlot is used by the local farmers on the surrounding farmland. Over the next 28 days on the feedlot, the energy of the feed ration is increased. There are concerns about some of the additional supplements added to the feed. As well as vitamins and minerals, antimicrobials are added to the feed mix. Monensin and tylosin, which are antibiotics used to promote growth, are added to the feed and are both banned by European countries over their contribution to antibiotic resistance. This mass production is how beef farming has developed over the years, from its humble beginnings on the open Texan ranches, and the romantic idea of long cattle drives across the country, to the unattractive dirt and concrete scars that feedlots leave on the landscape today. These feedlots receive a lot of bad press due to their environmental impact. Intensively farming cattle creates huge amounts of methane, releases large, concentrated amounts of nitrogen, and has the potential to damage the surrounding environment. But cattle producers heed by strict measures and guidelines. All runoff from the feedlot is collected in a central lagoon, which is then used as fertilizer for the surrounding farmland. Buffer zones are put in place to prevent contamination of other water sources. Complaints about dust and airborne diseases have led to regular scraping of soiled pens, keeping loose soil damp to avoid it becoming airborne, and keeping pens and walkways as clean as possible. Although grass-fed beef is thought of as more environmentally friendly and providing a higher standard of animal welfare, feedlots aren't as bad as some people think. Methane is produced by ruminants, including cattle. This greenhouse gas has a global warming potential 20 times greater than carbon dioxide. But with the efficiency of feedlot cattle, they reach slaughter weight quicker than grass-fed cattle, thus producing less methane over their lifetimes. Texan farmers are resilient people. They have to be. The environment and climate can be unforgiving, and the rapidly changing consumer demands is something each and every farmer has to adapt to and accommodate. The days of long cattle drives are now over due to modernization and developments in transportation. Although small ranches are still family-run, a lot are diversifying due to an inability to make a living from herding beef. More and more people want a piece of the country life, a place where they can relax and get away from the stresses of everyday life in the towns and cities. Ranch land is being sold for this purpose, and the future of Texas cattle ranches looks different from what it was 100 years ago. But one thing is for sure, Texans and indeed Americans will never give up their love of beef. For this reason, it seems beef production, in one form or another, is safe for now. Indiana is a state with a rich past and agricultural legacy. With over 60,000 farms sprawling across nearly 15 million acres of land, Indiana stands tall among the top 10 agricultural states in the country, producing an abundance of corn, soybeans, and wheat. In 2022, the preliminary farm value of Indiana's field crops skyrocketed to a whopping $11.8 billion, a 5% increase from the previous year. And that's not all. Indiana also takes the third spot in the nation for total livestock and poultry sales, with a value of over $3 billion. All of this culminates in an astonishing $31 billion in annual economic impact and support for over 107,500 jobs across the state. Indiana's agricultural industry has a long history that dates back to the days of Native American settlement. The varied terrain of the state, ranging from the fertile soil of the Wabash River Valley to the gently undulating hills of southern Indiana, offers an excellent environment for farmers to cultivate crops and rear cattle. Native Americans in Indiana practiced a form of agriculture that involved growing crops such as maize, beans, and squash, using a technique known as slash-and-burn farming. When European settlers arrived in the late 18th century, they brought with them new agricultural practices and technologies, such as crop rotation, plowing, and animal husbandry. These practices, which were being introduced throughout the United States at the time, helped the state's agriculture sector to grow to include crops such as corn, wheat, and oats. But it was the combination of fertile soil, favorable climate, and abundant natural resources that truly set the stage for Indiana's agriculture success. But what exactly goes into farming on such a massive scale? Let's dive into the world of Indiana agriculture and explore how these farmers cultivate crops on their vast farmland. Imagine a vast expanse of golden cornfields, spanning as far as the eye can see. Here in Indiana, farmers are hard at work cultivating one of the most profitable and important crops in the state: corn. Indiana farmers produced a record-breaking 1.1 billion bushels of corn in 2021, worth around $4.75 billion, which is a significant portion of the state's total agricultural revenue. But did you know that not all corn is the same? So, what are the different types of corn grown in Indiana? Popcorn is one of the most recognizable types, and thanks to successful agricultural research in the state, they have optimal seeds that produce the perfect popping corn. Sweet corn is another favorite, harvested during the summer when the kernels are still tender and juicy and the flavor is at its peak. And then there's field corn, which is the most common type of corn grown in the state. Field corn is used for animal feed and renewable fuel production, as well as for human consumption in products like cornmeal, corn flour, and grits. One unique aspect of corn production is the use of seed corn. This is a specialized type of corn that is used for producing hybrid seeds with specific traits desired by farmers. These traits can include disease resistance, higher yield potential, and improved quality characteristics. Every field of corn is unique, with its own set of soil conditions that affect the crop's growth. This year, Indiana farmers were blessed with an exceptional growing season thanks to a wet spring, plenty of rain throughout the summer, and warm days with cool nights. Just the kind of weather that corn thrives in. As a result, many corn stalks have two fully developed ears, a rare occurrence that is a testament to the favorable growing conditions. To maximize yields, Indiana farmers use precision planting equipment like GPS-guided tractors and planters, carefully selecting the best hybrid corn seeds for their soil and climate conditions. They also employ advanced irrigation techniques and closely monitor their fields for pests and diseases. To maintain soil health, farmers rotate their crops and apply fertilizers and nutrients as needed. Once the corn is mature and the kernels have formed, it's time for the harvest. Farmers use specialized machinery called combines to efficiently harvest the corn. The ears are cut and stripped from the stalks by rotating blades and reels, and then threshed to separate the kernels from the cob. The corn is then transported to storage facilities or processing plants, where it is dried and sorted to ensure that only the highest quality kernels are used. While corn is a crucial crop in Indiana, soybeans are another major player in the state's agricultural industry, covering nearly 5 million acres of land in the state. In 2021, Indiana farmers produced a record-breaking 341 million bushels of soybeans, valued at over $3.7 billion. From cooking oil to animal feed and beyond, soybeans are used in countless products that we use every day. And just like with corn, Indiana farmers use precision planting techniques and advanced equipment to ensure that their soybean crops reach their full potential. When the time is right in the fall, Indiana farmers gear up to harvest their soybean plants. The plants are cut, and the precious pods, full of delicious beans, are separated from the rest of the plant using specialized threshing equipment. The harvested beans are then transported to storage facilities, where they undergo a drying process to reduce moisture levels, ensuring that they can be stored safely for months to come. The soybeans are then carefully sorted and cleaned to remove any debris and impurities. Once the beans are cleaned, they can be processed into various products, depending on the intended use. As we've learned, Indiana offers an excellent environment for farming. But to harvest over 15 million acres of farmland, Indiana farmers rely on more than just favorable conditions. Crop diversity plays a crucial role in their operations. This diversity is essential for several reasons. First, it helps to ensure that farmers have a stable income, even if one crop fails due to weather or other factors. Second is the fact that Indiana farmers are not just cultivating crops. They are also stewarding the land, and crop diversity helps them to achieve that goal. There are various methods that Indiana farmers use to implement crop diversity. One of the most common practices is crop rotation, which involves planting different crops in a specific sequence over several years. This helps to reduce soil erosion, prevent nutrient depletion, and control pests and diseases. Another method is intercropping, where farmers grow 2 or more crops simultaneously in the same field. This allows for better use of resources, such as water and sunlight, and can also help in pest management. Additionally, Indiana farmers often incorporate cover crops into their operations. Cover crops are planted to protect and improve soil health during periods when the land would otherwise be fallow. They also help to control weeds, reduce soil erosion, and increase nutrient retention. Although Indiana is famous for its corn and soybean production, it has also established itself as a powerhouse in the livestock industry, with its pork, poultry, eggs, and dairy sectors accounting for more than 90% of the total cash receipts farmers receive each year. Indiana's livestock industry is a major economic driver for the state. In particular, Indiana's poultry and egg production have garnered national recognition. According to the United States Department of Agriculture, USDA, Indiana's egg production reached a staggering 8.67 billion eggs in 2020, a testament to the state's dominance in the industry. With approximately 26.5 million egg-laying chickens, the state has established itself as a hub for commercial egg production, with a concentration of operations in counties such as Kosciuszko, Whitley, and LaGrange. Farmers in Indiana rely on specialized layer houses to raise their egg-laying chickens. These buildings are carefully designed to provide the birds with a safe and comfortable environment, featuring automatic feeding, watering, and egg collecting systems. The majority of these birds are housed in cages, which not only maximizes space but also enables more efficient management of the flock. However, the industry has witnessed a growing trend towards cage-free egg production, with farms adopting alternative housing systems such as aviaries or 4-pens. While large commercial egg operations dominate the industry, smaller-scale and free-range operations are also present, catering to a niche market that values sustainable and ethical farming practices. Regardless of the scale, Indiana's egg producers remain committed to providing high-quality and safe eggs to consumers across the country. As the state's farming landscape continues to evolve, the egg industry in Indiana is poised to maintain its position as a leading producer in the United States. While Indiana farmers work hard to make the most of their farmland, they face a number of challenges that can impact their ability to maintain productive operations. One such challenge is changing consumer demands. As consumers become more conscious about the source of their food and the methods used to grow it, farmers must adapt to meet these demands. This can mean investing in new technologies or production methods, or shifting their focus to specialty crops that are in higher demand. In addition, farmers must navigate complex regulations and certifications required to sell their products directly to consumers or through specialty markets. Despite these challenges, Indiana farmers remain committed to their work and to their communities. By staying informed about the latest trends and technologies, and by working closely with organizations like the ISDA and Purdue Extension, farmers in Indiana are finding innovative ways to overcome the obstacles they face and build sustainable, successful operations that benefit both their families and the wider community. North America is home to a number of deserts. Its 8 cold deserts and 4 hot deserts are all located in America's western and southwestern states. The word desert doesn't conjure up images of lush green fields and extensive farmland full of crops. Being so dry, it's the last place you would expect to find thriving agriculture, and yet this is exactly what can be found there. Farming in a desert, however, is a challenge. The arid conditions mean that irrigation is vital to grow produce. In the Southwest, Native Americans have been doing this for centuries. Their hand-dug canals provided irrigation to the desert regions in California and Arizona. Hundreds of miles of these canals were spread across the land, allowing crops to be grown and families fed. But those dug in Arizona were so extensive that they had a major impact on the topsoil in the area. The salinity increased so much that, over time, it made the land unfarmable. Today, the Imperial Valley in California's Sonoran Desert is a great example of desert farming. The arid region is supplied water via the All-American Canal. This water system, built in the 1930s, connects the valley with the Colorado River, a vital source of water. With just 3 inches of rainfall a year and summer temperatures averaging 110 degrees Fahrenheit or 43 Celsius, Imperial Valley is a unique place to farm. The region covers 450,000 acres of farmland and produces more than 65 different crops. Having access to water all year round, as well as the climatic conditions of a desert, make Imperial Valley an excellent place to farm. With ample sunshine, approximately 300 days of it per year, and therefore long growing seasons, Imperial Valley farmers are able to grow winter vegetables and summer forages. In fact, they produce the most alfalfa hay, sweet corn, sugar beet, Sudan hay, and alfalfa seed in the whole of California. They also produce 90% of the winter vegetables in the whole of the U.S. and contribute over $4 billion to the economy each year. But how do they do this? It comes down to the extensive irrigation that has been plumbed in across the region. The Imperial Valley is the largest irrigation district in the whole of the U.S. It seems counterintuitive to use land in a desert for agriculture, but the growing amount of farmland began in the mid-1800s. At that time, families and smallholders could only afford small pockets of land. Therefore, in order to make a profit, they grew the most lucrative crops. These included fruit and nut trees, which are renowned for being incredibly thirsty. In fact, it takes about 1.1 gallons of water to produce just one almond, and even more to produce a single ton of alfalfa hay, which is used to feed livestock across the U.S. But by growing these crops, the inhabitants of Imperial Valley could make a living. Since then, the area became known for producing exotic produce, and it lured more and more farmers to the region. As farmland grew, so too did irrigation, and soon farmland was given priority over water consumption. Those who lived in the busy cities were restricted in the amount of water they could use, whilst farmers in the countryside were not. This law still stands today, a law whereby productive land is prioritized over towns and cities. Imperial Valley is given more water than Las Vegas, Los Angeles, and Phoenix combined. Recent water shortages have caused city residents to question this system. In a world where the phrase climate change is on everyone's lips and droughts are becoming more common, perhaps California needs to do something about its water distribution. Water levels in the Colorado River have dropped by 20% since the 1900s. More than 40 million people from 7 states and 2 different countries rely on this river. Less water is starting to become a real problem for those who rely on it. Water levels in Lake Mead, a reservoir created by the Hoover Dam on the Colorado River, have also been significantly lower in recent years. If levels dropped so low that water flow from the reservoir ceased altogether, then California, Nevada, and Mexico would suffer, along with 9 cities and 500,000 acres of farmland that rely solely on that source of water. With about 80% of the Colorado River's water used for farming, the government and policymakers are determined to cut water usage across the Imperial Valley. Farmers are understandably concerned. A lack of water could destroy their way of life. Acres of crops could die. Fields could lie fallow. The country's food production and economy could take a serious hit. But in this day and age, water is a precious resource. So what's the answer? Farmers are looking at more efficient ways to water their crops. The irrigation system that has been around for decades uses excessive water. Installing sprinklers can be more efficient and can actually enhance crop production. Using sprinklers can reduce water usage by up to 25%, but they come at a cost. Installing sprinklers to cover 1 acre of land can cost in excess of $4,000. At a time when there is increasing fertilizer and fuel costs, forking out more money to improve water usage is unattainable for most farmers. Other suggestions to improve water usage have included lining the extensive canals and waterways with concrete to reduce leakage of water along the irrigation systems. Some farmers are converting to drip irrigation systems, some employing high-tech moisture monitoring equipment, and others switching to less thirsty crops. In 2003, the Imperial Irrigation District scaled back its water use from 3.1 million acre-feet to about 2.6 million. They sold some of their water to Californian cities. Elsewhere, landowners have converted hundreds of acres of farmland into solar farms, installing solar panels to generate and sell electricity across the state. However, most landowners and officials are reluctant to let farmland go dry. Taking farmland out of production will only add to an ongoing food crisis, cost of living crisis, and job losses across the agricultural sector. In 2022, the Biden-Harris administration announced $4 billion in drought mitigation funding. Some of this money will go to growers, with the aim of helping them convert to more efficient water usage, as well as compensating them for giving up some of their farmland to help restore the state's reservoirs. Water shortages don't just have an impact on agriculture and those who drink the water, but also on the ecosystems which rely on it. A further $250 million has been pledged to try to restore the Salton Sea. This is a large saltwater lake, mostly fed by agricultural runoff. Its water levels have dwindled so much over recent years that the ecology of the area has suffered, as well as people living close to its shores. Large amounts of dust from the exposed lakeside have been blamed for significant increases in asthma amongst local residents. With rising costs in fertilizer and fuel, water shortages are adding to the burden that farmers must bear in order to make a living. Farming in the desert may be a way of life for some, but its challenges are becoming more and more prevalent as global warming and climate change continue to grip the U.S. and indeed the world. Perhaps a shift in crops is well overdue. Globally, there is a staggering amount of scientific research that is going on to produce drought-resistant crops. Obviously, droughts aren't just a problem in the southwestern U.S. They are striking all over the globe. Maybe farmers in America's deserts need to switch to crops that consume less water. In fact, one research project that is taking place in Arizona is looking at growing guayuli. This native shrub thrives in desert conditions and requires far less water than fruits, nuts, and alfalfa hay. Its roots can grow 20 feet underground, allowing the crop to survive prolonged periods without rainfall. It produces latex and, if successfully grown in Arizona, will be used in the manufacture of products such as airplane tires and surgical gloves. It would be the country's sole domestic source of natural, high-grade rubber. Currently, most rubber is imported from Southeast Asia. So although people have tried and subsequently failed to grow guayuli in the United States, if it proves a success, then it could be a very lucrative crop. Welcome to the apple capital of the world, the heartland of apple production in the United States, where an astounding 2 billion apples are harvested each year. This is Washington State, a place where the air is crisp, the soil fertile, and the apple trees stretch as far as the eye can see. Today, you'll get an insider's look at the harvesting methods, from traditional hand-picking to modern mechanical harvesters, and learn about the journey these apples take after leaving the farm. Our story begins with a number that might seem almost incomprehensible: 2 billion apples. Yes, you heard that correctly. 2 billion. Over 175,000 acres of land are dedicated to apple orchards, with more than 2,500 farms contributing to this vast expanse. These farms collectively produce an astounding figure of approximately 130 million boxes of apples each year, translating to nearly 2 billion individual apples. This output places Washington State firmly at the helm of U.S. apple production, accounting for about 65% of the entire country's apple yield. The history of apple farming in Washington State dates back to the 19th century. It was the unique combination of fertile soil and climate and innovative irrigation practices that transformed this region into an ideal location for apple cultivation. Over the decades, Washington's apple industry has not only burgeoned in size, but has also become integral to the state's economy. The apple industry supports thousands of jobs, ranging from farming to research, and plays a pivotal role in the state's exports. The enduring significance of apple farming in Washington state is a story of agricultural success, innovation, and economic impact, underpinning the region's identity as a leading force in global apple production. The importance of climate and terrain in apple cultivation cannot be overstated. Washington's climate is uniquely suited for apple farming. Its warm, sun-drenched summers and crisp, cool winters provide the ideal conditions for apple trees to thrive. The Cascade Mountain Range acts as a natural shield, shielding the orchards from harsh weather systems while also providing the necessary elevation for proper apple growing. In addition to the favorable climate, the terrain plays a vital role. The rolling hills and valleys of Washington state provide orchards with well-drained soil and proper air circulation, essential factors for healthy apple trees. The Yakima Valley in particular is renowned for its fertile soil and consistent climate, making it a prime location for apple cultivation. The life cycle of an apple tree begins with planting young apple trees in well-prepared soil, ensuring they have the right balance of nutrients, sunlight, and water. These trees, usually 2 to 4 years old, are carefully selected for their resilience and fruit-bearing potential. Once planted, the focus shifts to diligent care and maintenance. Farmers regularly prune the trees to optimize sunlight exposure and air circulation, crucial for healthy growth and fruit production. This pruning also helps in shaping the trees for easier harvesting. In spring, apple trees blossom, their white-pink flowers not only adding beauty to the orchards, but also attracting pollinators, an essential step for fruit development. As summer approaches, these flowers gradually transform into fruit. Irrigation plays a key role during this period, especially in the drier regions of Washington. Farmers employ efficient watering systems to maintain the perfect moisture level. Integrated pest management is also crucial, involving strategies to protect the trees from pests and diseases without over-reliance on chemicals. By late summer and early fall, the apples reach maturity, marking the end of one cycle and the anticipation of the harvest season. Through this process, from planting to fruition, meticulous care ensures that Washington state remains a leader in apple production. In Washington state, the timing of apple harvesting is a meticulous process, dependent on both the apple variety and weather conditions. Typically, the harvest season spans from late August to November. Farmers rely on a mix of experience and scientific methods to determine the exact moment when apples have reached their peak flavor and texture, ensuring the best quality produce reaches consumers. The traditional method of handpicking remains prevalent due to its precision and care, minimizing damage to both fruit and trees. At the heart of this operation are the apple pickers, a dedicated workforce that swells in numbers during the harvest season. Thousands of individuals, often hailing from various corners of the state, descend upon the orchards. The apple pickers work tirelessly, carefully selecting each apple and gently placing it into crates. As the harvest progresses, the challenges faced by growers become apparent. Adverse weather conditions, such as unexpected rain, can slow down the picking process and impact the quality of the fruit. Growers must also contend with variations in the ripening of different apple varieties, requiring careful planning and coordination. It's a numbers game that can be physically demanding. It is this scale of production, however, that has led to innovative approaches in Washington. One such innovation is the use of mechanized harvesters. These machines gently shake the apple trees, causing ripe apples to fall onto cushioned surfaces, significantly speeding up the harvesting process. Another technique involves platforms that elevate pickers, making the process more efficient and less physically taxing. Additionally, some farms have begun experimenting with robotic harvesting technology. These automated systems use cameras and sensors to identify ripe apples and delicately pick them, showcasing a blend of precision and efficiency. While still in developmental stages, these robots represent the future of apple harvesting, blending tradition with technological advancement to meet the demands of large-scale production. After the apples are harvested, the post-harvest processing begins, a crucial phase that ensures the quality and longevity of the fruit. Initially, the apples undergo a thorough cleaning process. Specialized machinery is used to gently wash the apples, removing any dirt or residues from the orchard. This is followed by a drying process, where excess water is carefully removed to prevent spoilage. The next step involves sorting, where apples are classified based on size, color, and quality. This sorting is largely automated, utilizing advanced technology like optical scanners, which can quickly and accurately assess each apple. These scanners make real-time decisions, directing apples to different bins based on predetermined criteria. This process ensures that only the best quality apples make it to the market and that they are uniformly grouped for sale. Finally, the apples are packaged, a process that varies depending on the destination of the produce. Packaging for local markets often involves placing apples in large bins or boxes, while apples destined for longer transport may be individually wrapped or cushioned to prevent bruising. The packaging machinery is designed to handle the fruits delicately, minimizing human handling and thus reducing the risk of damage. Once the apples are harvested and sorted with precision, the next monumental task is getting those 2 billion apples to their destinations. Trucks upon trucks, stacked with crates, begin their journeys from Washington's orchards. Technology plays a crucial role in this extensive distribution network. Advanced tracking systems keep tabs on every shipment, ensuring that no apple goes astray. These systems monitor the temperature, humidity, and even the condition of the apples during transit. If a truck veers off its prescribed route or if the temperature in the storage unit fluctuates, alarms sound and swift corrective action is taken. Throughout all the stages, the emphasis is on maintaining the freshness and quality of the apples, preparing them for their journey to supermarkets and homes. The use of modern technology in washing, sorting, and packaging not only enhances efficiency, but also ensures that consumers receive the best produce. Internationally, these apples find their way to over 60 countries. Mexico, Canada, and India top the list of international consumers, importing significant quantities each year. In terms of numbers, approximately 30% of the state's apple export heads to Mexico, making it the largest international market for Washington apples. Managing this colossal international distribution network is a logistical feat. It involves a complex interplay of refrigerated transportation, storage facilities, and timely delivery to maintain freshness. Orchards and packing houses are equipped with advanced storage technologies. Refrigerated trucks and cargo ships play a crucial role in maintaining the quality of apples during transit, especially for international shipments, which can take weeks. This efficient and expansive distribution system not only feeds the national appetite for apples, but also positions Washington State as a significant contributor to the global fruit market, influencing apple consumption patterns worldwide. In essence, apple farming in Washington State is more than just about apples. It's a vital part of the state's economy. Employing thousands, it's a sector that significantly contributes to local and national markets. With Washington leading the nation in apple production, the industry generates substantial revenue, supporting families and communities across the state. It's a story of hard work, innovation, and dedication that sustains this thriving agricultural sector. As we wrap up, I invite you to share your thoughts on Washington's apple industry. Are there any aspects you find particularly interesting or surprising? Let us know in the comments section. And if you're curious about other fruit farming practices or agricultural stories, make sure to subscribe for more content like this.